Exactly 25 years ago, on the 22nd September, the South African National Defence Force marched into Lesotho with an aim to quell the uprising that was threatening the newly elected premiership of Prime Minister Pakalitha Mosisili. While for many the military action has been perceived as an invasion, Mosisili says that this was a necessary and duly sanctioned intervention by the regional body SADC.
I approached SADC following general elections that were held here in 1998, and which elections were declared free and fair by all domestic and foreign observers, without exception. But my countrymen, some of them, could not understand that a new party, the Lesotho Congress for Democracy, that had been formed in 97, could win the very next elections and win in such a big way that they couldn't live with that.
According to reports, 9 South African Defence Force members lost their lives. 29 members of the Lesotho military lost their lives. It is further believed that at least 47 Basotho civilians lost their lives too. But it was the Katsi Dam attack that continued to raise more questions than answers.
It was most unfortunate and most uncalled for that so far away from the capital, where the problem was, that people had to lose their lives. As I say, up to this day, I still cannot understand what prompted the South African Defence Force to go all the way up to Katsi.
Mosisili, however, insists that he made the right call.
No, I don't regret one bit. What I regret, though, is the loss of life and the destruction of property.
But to some, the military action was unnecessary and uncalled for.
South Africa was duped into a trap when the former Prime Minister wrote to South Africa to request military assistance, claiming that there was a coup. For a fact, I know I was on the ground. There was no coup. So the role that was played by the late Prince Mangosuthu has left a bitter taste amongst us and many other politicians for the fact that he penned his signature into endorsing or allowing the South African troops to invade Lesotho. One of the reasons why we'll never forget is because their first point of entry was to hoist the South African flag on the grounds of the palace. And that really resembled some form of an occupation force. And it has not been sitting well with Basotho. And every year when we celebrate the 22nd of September every year, the first person that comes into our mind is the late Mangosuthu Buthelezi, because had it not been his signature, Lesotho would not have been invaded by the Republic of South Africa.
I was working for Emperor Zero at that time in Katsi. And that morning, we suddenly had sounds of helicopters. And I said to a friend of mine, Khetsi, those are not our helicopters. Within no time, somebody came and said to me, Captain, we are sitting here eating, people are dying that side. Then we went up, and here were South African choppers bombing that camp. It's not a base. I won't call it a base, because in military terms, you know what a base is. That was just a camp to help with the security, with the police for the building of the dam. So definitely the South African intelligence was wrong to go straight there and bomb that place and say these people were going to destroy the dam. It is not true. Every soldier is taught that a government asset should not be destroyed. You saw it in Zimbabwe. They never touched the Kariba. Why should we touch our own? So they went, and I can recall, I just forget the name of that general who said the Katsi thing was a mistake, which to me shows me where their interests were. Our water. Simple as that. Hate it or like it, they were interested in the water. The problem was in Maseru. And again, to prove that the intelligence was wrong. Why did they go to the palace, get to the palace and then erect the South African flag? It was an invasion. They thought they were conquering Lesotho. It even made noise in their own parliament, if you recall. Why did you do this?
It's quite sad, but you know it happened. And the person who will forever be remembered for it is Prince Buthelezi. But you have to ask yourself a question. Could he have made that decision alone? And I will bet you he did not make that decision alone. The other two knew exactly what was going on, but conveniently they were nowhere to be found. So today we are left with one man holding the can, which is quite sad.
Tukhitane Buthelezi remains the best man to have championed how the tricky subject of land should be resolved.
And as much as President Ramaphosa recently alluded to it, that the ANC was not born for all these fancy things, it was born for land, no one in the ANC has been able to articulate it. Shanye has. He has articulated it in the most profound way by forming the Ingonyama Trust. The Ingonyama Trust is probably the strongest document that displays an understanding of the birth of the South African Native National Congress and African National Congress. If you read the Ingonyama Trust, I think it's section 2 somewhere, it says, the land belongs to the Zulu nation held in trust by the Ingonyama. The Ingonyama being the king. The king is the trustee of the people. Section 107 of the Constitution of Lesotho says exactly the same thing. The land belongs to the Basotho nation held in trust by His Majesty the King.
To many Basotho, the events of the September 1998 continue to be a subject of contention, as some view it as an act of invasion, while some believe it was a necessary intervention that provided necessary lessons on what happens when the use of force becomes a final resolution to a conflict. I'm Rapelang Khatebe, SABC News, Maseru, Lesotho.